Saturday was a scary moment for wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe, and it was scary for Boston College fans, the team, the staff, and everyone else in attendance at that game. Watching that injury to Ryan O'Keefe was not easy for anyone. I think a lot of us were having thoughts and prayers, hoping that he would come through with a full recovery. Well, we got some really good news today, and I can't wait to talk about it with you here on the show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first order. So we've been talking about it, and it's been, I think a lot of folks have really, this has been the focus after the win at UVA, is the health of wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe. We all watched, and kind of stunned disbelief as he went down with a brutal injury against UVA. And we found out more later, as we've said on past episodes, it was a neck injury. He was taken to Mass General, where he was discharged the next morning, which is great. So he was back on campus. And on Monday, Jeff Hafley, he held his Monday media availability and talked at length about Ryan O'Keefe and gave some interesting details that I think folks just need to know. And this is more, I want you guys to know, because more people, I mean, my kids went to this game and they want to know what's going on with him. So I think there's a lot of folks that are just really, want to know how he's doing. So he was at practice this weekend. I think it was Sunday, because I know they had today off. He was at practice with the team. The team was very excited to see him. Obviously, he's not practicing yet. And but the good news is he's moving around. He's on campus. It seems like, I don't know what, they're not going to get into the details of what his injury is. That's personal, private information, but it seems good. Jeff Hafley talked about what happened the night of the game. He praised the training staff, the medical staff, doctors, and everyone else who helped in that situation, and how calm and composed they were. And totally they were. In a situation you never want to see. You never want to see a kid that's 21, going down with an injury like that. And you having to, in front of 40,000 people, help him out. And they did a perfect job with that. And I thought Hafley did a nice job, applauding them for their work and their professionalism as they did, a hard task. But he also mentioned what O'Keefe had said when he was in, getting ready, when they were working on him. And Hafley said that O'Keefe told them, tell the team I'm okay. Tell them I want them to win this game, and tell my family I'm all right. So, as Hafley said, it was a moment where he got, it was about him, but all O'Keefe thought about was other people. And it kind of just said, it really shows the character of this kid. Like, he was worried about his family and his team more than his health at that point. He seems like a very selfless guy. And so there's a lot that we'll never know about what happened. I don't know if, maybe O'Keefe will eventually talk at a media thing, and maybe we'll get more information. But it's not Hafley's place to tell that kind of stuff. I feel like at this point, it's a pretty private information type of deal. But we did learn other pieces too. Now, obviously, before I get into this next piece, I want to say the most important part of the story is that Ryan O'Keefe is okay. And his drive right now is to play football again. He said that to Jeff Hafley. And, I don't think Hafley said he's not playing against Army this week. He's made that seem very clear. We don't know when he'll return. Okay. So I think that's important, just to know that his health should be number one, and that the choices that they're making, and Hafley said this himself, is, they want him, they would love to have him back, but they don't want to do it at the expense of his long-term health. And you hear that a lot in sports. I'm a wrestling fan, and a lot of these guys, like, I don't know if you guys know who Bryan Danielson is. He's racked up tons of concussions and stuff. He doesn't want to like be 60 years old and can't move. I imagine football players have that same mentality. They don't want to be hurt and like crippled or like severely injured when they're older. They want to be able to have good quality of life. And I hope that, that's the choice they're going to make. So we know he's not going to play next week. The goal is he wants to play soon. So we don't know what that means. Now, after Army is a bye week, it's perfect 2 weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take him to recuperate, but that's a nice break for him and other guys like Ozzie Trapilo, which we talked about with Mitch yesterday, right? Trapilo couldn't play. That he played 15 snaps, I think, against UVA. 2 week, get that week off, maybe have him miss the Army game, and that's a good way to get himself healthy for the second half. But back to O'Keefe. If he misses he's going to miss the game. Who replaces him? He's the F receiver. That's the slot receiver. And there's a couple of options. First off, you could have Dino Tomlin. Dino Tomlin has been like one of the biggest mysteries of this season, right? This is a guy that came on strong at the end of last year, had some really solid games. And then all of a sudden this year, it seems like he's missing and he'll show up for pieces, but you don't ever see him consistently out there. I would love to see Dino out there. But the other option too is that, at a slot receiver, we've seen what Lewis Bond can do. You could also put Jaden Williams out on the outside, move Lewis Bond inside because he can do it, and do that as well. The other option, and the one I don't want to see, is putting Jaden Williams in the slot, and then having everyone else stay in the spots that they're at normally. No offense to Jaden Williams, we've talked about him on this podcast. I don't think he's the best option right now. He missed last week's game. Hafley didn't say why. It sounded injury-ish, but he kind of just alluded that he's going to be ready. He will be ready for this game. So those are your three options. You can either put Tomlin, Jaden Williams, and Lewis Bond. I don't know what I would prefer. I think I would prefer Tomlin in the slot. Because I like what they're doing with Bond. I don't want to mess that up, and I want to see Dino Tomlin out there. I really do think he deserves to play more. And I think that's important as well. Now, there really wasn't a ton of other things from Hafley's press conference. He talked about Army being a physical team. He talked about the defense playing really well. It's all stuff we've already heard. So there was really no other big nuggets that came out of this. But that kind of wraps up the press conference. And again, I'm really just happy to hear that Ryan O'Keefe is back. I think that he is a big time player, and it doesn't matter. Football doesn't matter for me at this point. I just want to see him healthy. I don't want to see this poor guy to suffer or have any of his hopes and dreams dashed by a stupid injury. And it's not a stupid injury, it's just a bad injury. Okay. Now, in a second segment, we're going to flip it over to recruiting. This is an episode where we're going to go all over the place. We're going to go into recruiting and talk a little bit about the upcoming decommitment from last week, and I'll give you what happened and what I think could be coming up next for the Eagles. You're going to want to hear my thoughts on that in just a moment. Now, Gametime was a deal breaker for me this weekend. It was so good. I went to the game. I told you guys I did not go as press. This is my one game a year that I go with my family and go tailgate, have fun, and go as a fan. I'm a BC grad. I do a lot of, journalistic coverage, and I try to keep the maroon and gold stuff off, right? So this game, I went on Gametime. It was so easy. I found the game and I could just track it for a couple days, and I waited and waited, and I found the tickets that I wanted, which were under the ledge in the end zone because I thought it was going to rain. I could see where my seats were. So I knew I was getting what I wanted. The prices dropped. I stood around. They had flash sales. The prices dipped, and I got a great deal. It was the lowest price guarantee, so I didn't even have to worry that I was overspending over some of those other sites. So Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Now let's get to the negatives. Are you guys ready to really dive into some of the bad stuff? All right. So you guys know I'm the publisher over at Eagle Insider. If you've not signed up yet for our 50% off sale, get in now. It's $40 for the year. You get everything. If there's a coaching change or anything that pops up, even if it's not a coaching change, there'll be more recruiting news. You're gonna get your money's worth. I can guarantee you that. So go over to Eagle Insider right now and sign up. Now, speaking of recruiting, bad news on the recruiting trail as BC lost their second highest recruiting rated recruit, and the one I was actually the most excited for, Josiah Martin out of Geyer, Texas. This is a 3-star wide receiver who had offers from Alabama, TCU, and 37 other schools. It was a surprise when he committed. Back in June, he took an official visit to BC. He had a great relation with Coach Darrell Wyatt. And he was the guy that committed with Keondae Henry. Remember that whole fiasco with the 4-star wide receiver that took a visit to Purdue, and then they pulled his commitment because he lied to the staff. It wasn't truthful with the staff. And so they're both gone now. So BC lost both of their Texas wide receivers. Not good. There's no way to spin this as a good thing, because if anyone in this class, there's a couple guys that I feel like are really diehard BC commitments. Turbo Richards, a wide running back, he seems to be all about BC. There's a couple other guys too that you can see are tweeting about them all the time. Josiah Martin seemed like that guy. He seemed like he was very into Boston College. I saw him tweeting and liking lots of BC stuff up until last week. He was into it. But he's pulling it. He's had a huge senior season. This is what's a bummer, is because he would have been another addition to the wide receiver room that you could add with Jaden Skeet and Joseph Griffin and Lewis Bond. You'd have a really nice group of wide receivers you're building on. But at the end of the day, you guys all know what this is all about. It's not NIL. I know you guys, some people say NIL. It's the hot seat, right? When BC, he did this when BC was 1-3. Did it before the UVA game. He did commit when you could say Hafley was on the hot seat. I mean, he was at that point. But when you're 1-3 and every game you're going, is this it? At halftime of that game when they were down 21-7, when I watched that Hail Mary pass, I was like, is this going to be it for Hafley? Recruits think the same thing. They don't need me to tell them that. They're thinking the same thing watching. So many of them are thinking to themselves, I gotta be careful because maybe I do want to go to Boston College, but I don't know what's going on with this program right now. They're not playing well. They're making a lot of mistakes. It's a messy team right now. And so I don't blame this kid at all. This kid's got star potential written all over him. And he could cash his chips in someplace else and get a better deal. And I know he was looking at SMU, but given his offer list, I think he could go even much higher than that. So this is a big loss. BC is now down to one wide receiver, Cedric Lott, another Texas wide receiver. And he's been looking at Texas Tech. So I don't know if he's going to be another guy to keep your eye on. He's a lot rawer though. He's 6'6", and this is his first year playing wide receiver. They need to get other wide receivers out there. I talked about Syer Torrance, who is committed to Michigan State right now. He was on a visit a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't heard much about him. It's going to be tough. Right now, it is very tough to bring in recruits given the state of BC football. Now, a good win against Army, you start to build a little momentum. Maybe you can get that back. Maybe, I'm not saying Martin will ever come back. I don't know what the deal is with him. I haven't heard much about it. But you could start to maybe land some other recruits and to fill this class out. Because right now you're at I think you're 12. And I'm not surprised if there's another name that will pop soon. But this is tough. And I saw, hey, Jeff Lee in the comment section. So someone just said we just lost a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet. And you could be right. I'm looking on Twitter right now. I haven't seen anything about Cedric Lott. But I'm pulling it up right now. Yep, there he goes. He decommitted 39 minutes ago. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, BC has no wide receivers right now, and their class is just falling apart at the seams. I don't know. Jeff Shell says, I saw today that two defensive players are leaving MSU. I remember you said BC competes for recruits with MSU. Is this good for BC? If BC was if BC was stable at all right now, sure it would. But MSU is a bad spot. BC is a less bad spot, but still a bad spot. I don't think BC is very desirable right now, given the state of where the football team is. And so these guys aren't going to decommit from MSU unless they are guys that they were super in with, like, as I said, Torrance. Torrance or Matt Henry Hasselbeck. Those are the only ones I could think of. I don't think they're going to get any new guys out of that. So, oh, well, I got some work to do when I get off this podcast, huh? So, yeah, bad news. They're down to no wide receivers. And we'll get into some good news in a second because I want to talk basketball. So, hang on. We're going to get into Jeff Goodman, who always has a vendetta against BC. He has some thoughts about the BC basketball team, and I want to share them with you because I think it's interesting to talk about. Now, if you guys know me, you know I love talking recruiting. You know I love my bird dogs. They're stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg. They give you a truly sculpted look. For me, I love wearing them. So what I want to do, I want to tell you, I have 6 pairs of bird dog shorts. And I'm getting bummed because I have to put them away for the winter, but I'm still wearing them right now. I got my blue ones on. They fit much better than regular shorts. I can't even wear my other shorts now because I am so into my bird dogs. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter promo code lockedoncollege at a checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black, and hopefully no one decommitted while I was doing that ad read there, because I want to talk about. I picked the worst picture of Earl Grant. If you're on YouTube, you can see what I'm talking about. It looks like he smelled a fart. But I want to talk about basketball here because basketball is a couple weeks away, and Jeff Goodman, who many of you guys know is one of the top college basketball guys out there. Visited Boston College in the new Hogs Pavilion, which he called a game changer or he called it a big upgrade for BC. I don't want to say game changer. He called it a big upgrade for BC, which Jared Dudley responded with, "Yes, sir." But he visited and he watched the team practice, and he had some things that I thought were really worth talking about. Now, he had one player that he particularly pointed out as being a guy that really impressed him. And it's someone we really haven't talked much about. And that's MJ Harris or Claudell Harris, the transfer from Charleston Southern. He said he looked impressive in practice and would be a big addition. For the way he's playing, he expects him to be a big scorer for BC. Just think about that right now. If he can become Claudell Harris, a big time scorer, like Goodman says, and Goodman's he's got a good eye for stuff. That gives you Quinton Post. That gives you Jaden Zachary and then Harris as your 3 scorers. You add in potentially that you're hoping Prince Oligby can step up, and then you have Devin McLaughlin as more of the glue guy. All of a sudden, you have a really solid 4 or 5 starters, as long as they stay healthy, right? I thought that was interesting. But the part that really interested me was that he said that his prediction for BC was the NIT. Now, you may be hearing that and going, I don't want the NIT. I want BC to go to the tournament. Let's have some perspective here for a second, folks. What do most national people always put BC? John Rothstein and his weird eyes that are in that Twitter picture, he has BC at the bottom. You go to any, most of these preseason polls, they're going to have BC at the bottom. And I don't get it. They have them below Florida State, which was a disaster last year. Louisville just lost their top recruit, and they were awful last year. But Jeff Goodman, a guy that usually he has no problem crapping all over BC. I don't know what his deal is with Boston College, but he's got a slant at BC. The fact that he has them in the NIT should give you higher aspirations than that in what you're thinking of what BC could do, because even then he's being a little bit, I think he's probably being a little bit hesitant to give them any of their due. I'm thinking if Goodman is thinking that much, BC's could be in for a big year. You've got Quinton Post, you've got some really good talent, and you have some younger players that you're hoping that Earl Grant can develop to go along with guys like Claudel Harris and Post, and now McLaughlin, who's now a junior, or no, he's a sophomore. I like what they have, and I liked hearing that. I like seeing that there's a national guy out there that watched this team play and said, ooh, there's something going on at BC. Now with the Hogue Pavilion, if they could get a nice season going, this could be the renaissance of BC basketball. Could be the year where things start to turn around, when they can start to recruit, when Friends of the Heights is starting to, maybe getting themselves back together to get, some of these recruits to stay on campus. They're going to be able to recruit at a higher level. There's more that we can start to look at with this basketball team that we haven't seen, in years. And that's exciting. It's been a long time. Now, on tomorrow's show, we will be joined by Mitch. Mitch is going to talk to us. Actually, that's Wednesday's show. Sorry. We're going to preview Army. We'll look a little bit about what's going on with that team. We'll talk a little bit more about the Cedric Law decommitment, which broke as I'm recording this, and everything else that's going on in BC sports. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Go over to Eagle Inside and read my work there. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook. You can find us everywhere. And if you're listening on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you're on a podcast, give us a 5-star review. It helps with our algorithm and puts us to the top of a lot of charts. Thank you all so much. You guys are our everydayers who are out there. You guys are the glue of this show, and I appreciate each and every one of you, including Jeff, Michael, Peter, and Marty Party, who are all in the comment section chatting right now. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again soon.